A very good afternoon to all of you. On behalf of WWF India, I welcome you all for this webinar, Extended Producer's Responsibility, Key Elements and Best Practices. We hope all of you are staying safe and healthy and have adapted to working from home in the past few weeks. Without further ado, context for today's webinar, highlighting the theme and the agenda. I will quickly take you through the impacts of plastics to set the context for today's webinar. Plastic is found in every corner of the world, in the most remote environments, in our food and water, and in hundreds of wildlife species. Everyday plastic items that end up as waste in nature will take hundreds of years to degrade, negatively impacting ecosystems and their inhabitants in ways we are just beginning to understand. Plastic is ubiquitous, and so is plastic pollution. It impacts the triple bottom line due to its several economic, social, environmental, and even climate impacts. Talking of a few metrics in terms of these impacts, I would like to quickly run through the biodiversity impacts of around, as the numbers show, that approximately 100,000 marine mammal deaths in a year occur due to the ingestion of plastic or entanglement. And also more than 700 marine species are known to be killed either by the ingestion of plastic or entanglement. If we talk of the climate impact, by 2050, it's estimated that production and incineration of plastics will account for 14% of the total annual carbon budget. The economic impact of plastics is around $13 billion, which is only the cost of damage to the marine environment, and which is quite a lot if we talk about the entire environment covering all other aspects of our biodiversity and environment. If we talk of the social impacts, the 75% of plastic leakage in the ocean comes from uncollected waste, which ends up into our oceans through various means. Talking about social impacts further, there's a growing concern around human health impact at every stage of plastics life cycle. And according to a WWF study, humans could be ingesting around 5-gram plastic per week, which is equivalent to the weight of a credit card. I would quickly like to play a short video elucidating this. At this not so appetizing note, I'll quickly go further and proceed with what are the reasons for these impacts and why plastic has become such a big crisis. Majorly because of the economic growth, which is outpacing the waste management in many countries. And there is complete lack of accountability from producers for waste management, which is one of the major reasons which has led to this plastic crisis we are dealing with. Also attributed, some of it can be attributed to the design trends in consumer packaging industry, which is towards convenient use of single-use applications. Even the multiple packaging materials, which are traded globally across countries, are dealing with limited collection and recycling infrastructure, which adds to the woes of plastic crisis. Now, I'll quickly give you an overview of plastic packaging and why it is one of the major contributors to the plastic pollution in our environment. So talking about plastic packaging, it's the single largest application of plastics with around 47% of the total volume used for packaging globally. And also this is elucidated by the fact which is substantiated with the evidence from the international coastal cleanups that 62% of the items which have been collected are single-use plastic packaging and other plastic packaging items. That's how it is one of the largest contributors to the macroplastic pollution in oceans and by its extension into nature. If we look at the breakup of the polymer consumption in India in terms of four key segments by their use, that's packaging, consumer durables, infrastructure, and industrial products. Packaging accounts for the single largest application, with around 44% of the total polymer consumption being accounted in packaging, followed by infrastructure at 23%, industrial products at 18%, and consumer durables at 15%. That's why it's very, very important to tackle the problem of plastics pollution through dealing with packaging and plastic packaging issues, which have led to this crisis in one way. Now, if we quickly run through the regulation, that's the Plastic Waste Management Regulation in India, which was announced in 2011 first, and it was known as the Plastic Waste Management and Handling Rules, and which was at that time not applicable to manufacture of carry bags exclusively, and it was exclusively for which were used for export purposes. And then it was revised in 2016, and it mentions about improved waste management system via one of the successful frameworks globally, about which we are going to go deeper in the future course of this webinar, and it's called Extended Producer Responsibility, which focuses on minimization of plastic waste by segregating plastic waste at source and involving informal sectors such as waste pickers, recyclers, and waste processors. The rules were further amended in 2018 and also mentioned the phase out of non-recyclable, non-energy recoverable multi-layer plastics in 2 years. Also, the responsibility of the waste generators, producers, brand owners has been clearly notified in the Extended Producer Responsibility Guidelines in the Plastic Waste Management Rules 2018. So we'll be delving deeper into the details of these key elements and how an effective EPR scheme can be conceptualized and implemented in the further presentations. Now here, I would quickly like to take just half a minute to talk about the role that the WWF here is playing in India in dealing with the plastic crisis and engaging businesses in this through this multi-stakeholder platform that we have, and it's called the Unplastic Collective. It was launched by CII, UNEP, and WWF India, and it's a voluntary multi-stakeholder platform which works on minimizing the externalities of plastics and to mitigate plastic pollution and its detrimental impact on nature, and helping the system to move towards a circular economy. UPC supports its members with the following, and we work extensively on capacity building and footprint mapping, which we are going to launch very soon. Knowledge sharing through exercises like this, the webinars and the workshops on different aspects of plastic pollution and circular economy. And we also offer technical expertise and visibility and recognition. So we urge all the businesses and all the various stakeholders to kindly connect with us and join the Unplastic Collective in a collaborative effort to minimize the externalities of plastics and contribute positively to the goal of environment. Now, I would like to introduce the speakers of today's webinar. We have Ms. Vivian Chen, who is the Global EPR Project Manager of WWF, and she works with WWF Germany. And she's extensively worked in WWF China as Director of Climate and Energy Program. And she specializes in strategic carbon management and works on Extended Producers Responsibility Framework for the WWF network. We also have Ms. Agnes Bünemann, who is the Managing Director of Cyclos GmbH, and she is a publicly certified expert on packaging disposal and waste energy disposal. Her essential qualifications also include the management and implementation of projects in the field of EPR, packaging, green economy, at both national and international levels. She also works on mass flow verifications of waste streams and capacity building projects. Now, I would like to hand it over to Vivian, who would be introducing WWF Network's global initiative on extended producers' responsibility and how WWF is tackling EPR and working on facilitating the use of and implementation of EPR globally in different countries. Vivian, over to you. Vivian, you need to unmute yourself when you're ready.
Okay. So thanks, Varun, for your introduction. I really appreciate your efforts for organizing the EPR webinar during this critical period. I also want to thank all participants for taking the time to join this training. I'm going to give you a brief introduction about WWF's EPR project. And Agnes is the senior consultant for our project. She will give more in-depth introduction of EPR system. How can I, okay, good. So we all know nowadays we face the plastic crisis. The root cause of plastic pollution is current make waste linear economy doesn't work. It's not sustainable. To beat the plastic crisis, a shift to a circular economy must take place. A circular economy is based on the principle of designing out waste and the pollution and keeping the products and the material in use. No waste entering into nature. A well-performed EPR system can play an essential role in driving the plastic circularity, which has been proved in the practice happened in some of the European countries. The concept of the EPR is to ensure that the producer are responsible for the entire life cycle of the products, including take back, recycling, and then the final disposal. It's based on the producer pays principle, and by shifting the responsibility and the financial costs of from the public bodies to and the taxpayers to producers. But it doesn't mean the public bodies and taxpayers, they don't need to take any responsibility. So EPR is not just about shifting the responsibility, it's more about sharing the responsibility among the different stakeholders. And Agnes will talk more about that in her presentation. The primary goal of EPR system is to incentive the eco-design in the upstream, to incentive the eco-design. In the downstream, it aims to ensure effective and environmentally sound waste management and to create the higher rates of reuse and recycling. According to the studies, that EPR can create various environmental, social, and economic and benefits. So it's including the incentivizing greener products, helping to finance waste management infrastructure, and accelerating the high quality secondary raw material market, creating more jobs, and also reducing the health risks from the mismanagement waste. So by implementing the EPR system, business, the corporates are not only the contributor, but also the beneficiary. The benefit covers from the preempt government eco-tax and also have the potential for cost saving by creating the cost-effective solutions and also prevent the competition from the free ridings and enhance the corporate the brand reputations. Because EPR plays such an important role to tackle the plastic pollution issues. So in the end of 2018, WWF Germany launched the EPR project, which is one of the key elements for the global No Plastic in Nature initiative. And the EPR project focuses on two work streams. One is to mobilize the government for the EPR adoption and enhancement, and the other side is to facilitate the multinational and the regional companies to take the responsibility for their end-of-life impact of their products and the package. So for this project, we implementation scope is concentrated in the global south. Last year we focused on the Southeast Asia, 6 countries. We have made big progress. We initiated the PRO and we give the recommendations to different country office, including Malaysia, Vietnam, Philippines, and some of the recommendations have been adopted in the national action plan. And we are also going to launch the Malaysia plastic pack in coming months. And this year, we want to expand the scope to India. We want to allocate resource to support India office to work on EPR-related activities in coming years. And there are a few steps before to implement EPR system, which these steps we need to go through. And for WWF, we would like to support and accompany the corporate to go through these steps. For example, build the knowledge, like the webinar we organized today, and also the roundtable discussion, workshop, study tours. I think it's important that the corporate and the government have the knowledge on EPR before starting the EPR system. And second is for the research and studies, because we all need to base on the scientific based study and analysis and to understand which EPR system or model is the most appropriate for this country. And also we need to align with the government, because mandatory EPR system needs the government endorsement, needs the regulation, needs the legislations. So it's important in line with the government. And also for the EPR system, a company work alone is not enough. So it's better to form kind of network and sharing the experience and the communication among those companies who have the interest and the intention to participate in the EPR system. The last but not least is the PRO, to initiate and facilitate PRO, because PRO is one of the key element of the EPR system, and different countries have actually some different PRO model. I think Agnes will also talk this more in her presentation. So that is my very short introduction of WEPR project. And you can reach out to me. This is my email address. We also have an Asia coordinator based in Malaysia, Thomas. So you also can reach out to him. And you can find all relevant EPR study developed by us in last 2 years and in our website. So you can click the website to get all the information of our project. That is my presentation, and thank you all.
Thanks a lot, Vivian, for giving the highlights of WWF EPR project. And now I would like to welcome Ms. Agnes Bünemann to kindly present on the extended producer's responsibility key elements and best practices, and share her presentation with us. Agnes, over to you.
Yes, hello, good morning, everybody, or hello, everybody, and thank you very much for your interest. And can you see my presentation or not?
Not yet. Agnes, you need to share your screen.
Okay. Is it now okay?
Yes, yeah.
Yes.
Okay. You can turn the slideshow mode on and start. Thank you. Yeah. Perfect.
Now it's fine. It's perfect like this. Okay,
yes.
Then again, hello to everybody. And I want to give a quick overview about this extended producer responsibility, the strategy for packaging, but not only for packaging, it's possible for a lot of other items. But I want to focus today on packaging. I think WWF will share my presentation with you, therefore, it's only a little bit more than half an hour. We can talk about this, and later on, maybe if there are any questions and so on, we can go on working on this. I want to give you a little bit an overview over the agenda. and I want to start immediately with some basic information. In many countries, you see on the left side, there are the packaging are dumped or are in the environment or in the ocean. While, for example, in Germany, I'm speaking now from Germany, I'm coming from Germany, about 1.2 billion euro they are paying every year for collecting, sorting, and recycling the packaging. It's in euro now, you know, 1 euro, it's about 82 rupiah, therefore it's about 100 billion Indian rupee they are paying in Germany for collecting and for recycling on a very high level only for packaging. Most of the packaging you can see can be recycled, but they need to be collected and they need to be sorted, and the packaging has to be designed for recycling. Vivian told already about the strategy of extended producer responsibility. Here I only want to show that on international level, all organizations' recommendation is please make the extended producer responsibility for packaging, because the municipalities are not able to spend this money. They need but a lot of money and organization is needed for the collection and recycling or for a proper disposal. Here is an example of the Basel Convention of last year. You can read it later on. In many European countries, such as Germany, packet goods are only allowed to be put on the market if the producer or the importer pay for the later collection. If you think about this, it would not be allowed to bring anything, any product, any packaging on the market in countries where this is not realized, where these cannot be realized. And this is, of course, the target that worldwide can be the packaging, all packaging that they put on the market are collected later on and are recycled or proper disposed. But it sounds simple, but it is really complicated and needs a very, very good organization, and it needs a very good controlling. I show you here on this slide a very simple way to be responsible. The producer gives the packaging to the consumer and they bring it to the waste management operator, and the producer are paying for it. But you can see in this picture we will have 100 questions. How much has he to pay? How does he know where it is, who is using the packaging, and so on and so on. And therefore, this very simple way can only be realized maybe in originals where there is commercial packaging or big industries, but not in the households. It's impossible. Therefore, it needs to be organized. And you need an EPR scheme. You need an organization. And the basic principles are always the same in all countries where EPR is realized for packaging. But how they are doing it, how they are organizing it on national level, it is really, there are really a lot of difference between it, but I want to give you basics and some examples. And the basic in every country with EPR is that every obliged company pays a fee when it puts a packet good on the market. And the fee has to be used for collection and further handling of these packaging. And the collection, sorting, and or energy recovery or proper disposal, they have to, somebody has to organize it nationwide, everywhere, for every household. And these mechanisms are already working. They started in Europe, but now also in South America, like Chile, or in North America, in Canada, or in a lot of other countries. This, or in your country, this principle is now working, but it doesn't work in the same way or very well in all countries, but we have a lot of examples how it can work in a proper way. If you remember this picture, you see something is missing between producer and waste management operator to have a proper organization. And here I add this, or we add this missing organization, and to make the EPR system collective responsible, to have a collective responsibility. The producer, you see here in blue color, they pay for the packaging they bring on the market, and this to a system operator, we call system operator, it's PRO, Producer Responsibility Organization, but I like the word system operator because he's really the organization who is responsible for all. And the producer, of course, they are selling it to the consumer are bringing it to a collection system, and the waste management operator or municipalities, we will discuss who will be the best way of waste management. But the waste management is paid by the money of the producers, collected in a fund with EPR fees. We call it EPR fees, the money the producer pay for EPR. They pay it to the system operator, and the system operator is paying all the operating work, all waste management works, and all services. Here I show you again to have a feeling on it. We have the stakeholders in the packaging supply chain. As Vivian told, not only the producer is responsible, but he's responsible to pay. But the system only works if everybody takes his responsibility in this supply chain. The raw material suppliers, the manufacturers, the producers, the importers, the users of packaging, the retailers, the consumers, and the waste management and the municipalities or the public authorities. And here I want to give you an overview about the rules in an EPR scheme. The raw material suppliers at the beginning of the supply chain, they shall use materials which are recyclable and reusable. And they, of course, where it is possible, they shall use secondary material and not virgin material. And the producers and importers of packaged goods, they have to pay for the system because they are the bottleneck at this interface. I will show you later on and go dive deeper in this one. And the distributors, they have to make sure that their suppliers paid for the system. They only shall sell packaging and packaged goods which are for which the supplier paid a license fee. And of course, if we are speaking about a collection system, we need everybody who is a consumer to separate in the right way, not to give it into the sea or into urban region, but into the system. But of course, for this, you need a system. And this is the task of the waste management operators or the municipalities. This depends on the law, who is responsible for collecting, what kind of collection system is the best. Is the best a waste bank, is the best a bring system, a curbside system. There are a lot of possibilities, and it depends on the framework in the region. And the local authorities, they are the link between the people and the waste management and the system operator, and they are very, very important that it is working in practice, the system. And the government, of course, they have to make a good law, a good regulation, and supervising the system, controlling the system, and of course monitoring. And they need also to evaluate and to say, okay, if this doesn't fit in 1 or 2 years, we want to see what are the problems, we change maybe the law, and so on. In Germany, we changed it about 10 times in 25 years. Okay, here I want to show you in another way the whole supply chain and the role of the system operator. The system operator is with the raw material supplies, they are discussing about the design, give information. They are getting the cash flow from the packaging users, the importers, the brand owners, the fillers. They are responsible for communication with the consumers, and they are paying for waste management, collection, and recycling. And you see here in the middle, I showed you the system operator and the PRO as an organization, the most important organization, and therefore I want to dive deeper in this. I told you it can be achieved EPR through individual responsible, but only for very, very, very big industries or where is a high amount. And you know directly the consumer where you send and where you and the supplier of this packaging. Most packaging has to be organized in a system. And I show you on the next slide this two in another way. The producers on the left, the blue, you pay the money to the system operator, and they give this money and organize the waste management. But the producer number 3 on the bottom of this slide, you see there are also individual take-back systems, but I want to focus now on the PRO system operator. Yes, not on this on the bottom, on the top, this possibility or this strategy with a system operator. And I show you again this picture. We are speaking about one system operator. In most of the countries, there is only one system operator, but like in Germany or Austria, we will find systems with more than one system operators. And you can imagine that it is very, very difficult to control such a structure and to avoid free rider. We have in Germany this system, but there are really problems with free riders. And the first 15 years, there was only, or 12 years, there was only one system operator, like I showed you in this picture. But now we have 10 system operator, and we have a very, very, very big controlling system with a lot of controlling measurements. My recommendation is start, please, if you are starting in one region or nationwide, with one system operator. Otherwise, it really will be very problematic. Okay, what is the task of the PRO? The task is the registration of all companies, because you have to know who is an obliged company. So collection and administration of all funds, the tendering and contracting of collection, sorting, recycling, documentation, informing and education, controlling, financing all these tasks, and documentation verification to the supervisory authorities. This is very important, that there is no corruption, that they really control it, and that they really are controlling the documentation. We are often asked, is it possible to build up a system voluntarily? And I can tell you, a voluntary system like this I showed you is not possible. But it is very helpful at the beginning to start, to learn, to make pilot projects. A voluntary system, usually only smaller projects can be implemented. And in a competition system between the suppliers, most of them, they are not so interested to pay a lot of money, and the costs are not so small. And therefore, if you want a nationwide or a system which is working everywhere with higher cost, you need a mandatory system, you need a law, you need a good regulation. Now let's talk about the financial flow. You see here the revenues and the expenditures. The PRO here in the middle. And we think the best is to have a non-profit PRO. If there are more than one system operators, then it can be a profit system operator. But at the beginning, or to make it really fair to everybody, we think the best, our recommendation is to have no profit, and the balance sheet is without profit. That means that the amount of revenues is the same than this amount of expenditures. And if you see in the green line, the revenues are coming from the obliged companies. Maybe there are reserves from the year before, and maybe from the revenues for if you are selling sorted materials. But this is not such a high amount. The practice shows that this is only about 20% per average of all revenues, of all costs you need. You can cover about 20% of the cost with the money you get if you are selling the recyclable packaging. Let's go to the next. What does it mean if we are speaking about these financial participation? How much should they pay? And who has to pay? Here I show you again what kind of packaging we are speaking about. The sales packaging which was used by private households or by places which use packaging like the packaging in private households. It is like hospitals, kindergartens, offices, and so on. And we have transport, commercial packaging, industrial packaging, and so on. And our recommendation is this system has to cover the dark green part of the packaging. But in a lot of countries, there are two system operators, one for sales packaging, the dark green, and one for industrial and commercial packaging. But in countries like Germany, it's only one collection system at the households and at places like households, with in the responsibility of 10 system operators. They share the costs. But in most countries, there is one system operator for sales, packaging, and packaging, which are typical sales packaging. The interface for determining how much everybody needs to pay. We say, okay, they are in a competition. We need to take care of the level playing field. No double payment, a clear interface. And an exemption is, what about service packaging, like plastic bags? They are not filled, they don't have a filler. The filler is the retailer or the very, very small seller. And here for these, we call it service packaging. You need separate rules, and I will show on the next slide. There is on the left, you see the producer of raw material in the supply chain and the packaging material. And here there are producer and filler in India, maybe, or in this country where EPR shall be implemented. And we have importer of packaging. They are filled in other countries. And you know at the border, okay, these packaging are, they have, the company has to pay for this packaging. And the producer and importer of service packaging, which are sold to retailers, street food outlets, and so on. They are empty and are filled when the consumer are buying the product. And at this interface, it can be certain which goods are being put on the market in this country. And the producer, we call producer, and the importer of plastic goods or of packaging. Here is written plastic goods, but because our main topic was plastic packaging, but you can say all packaging, they know very well the weight and the material of these items. And I want to give you on the next slide an overview. It is also in Europe, but let me explain. These are the price the producers, the obliged companies, have to pay per ton of packaging material what they bring on the market in, for example, Belgium or France or Netherlands or Spain. And let's have a look to France here. They have to pay for recyclable plastics 309 euro per ton. It is about 25,000 Indian rupee. Or for other plastic which are not recyclable, about 485 euro. It is about 40,000 Indian rupee. Yeah, this shall you give a little feeling what they are paying per ton for material when they bring it on the market, and the strategy and the interface is the same in every country. What does it mean per item? Because we are hearing in the discussion, oh, they should not be paid so much. Per item, I only want to show you the first example. It is for this bottle on the left side about 82 euro cent. It's about 0.69 rupee. Okay, let's go because the time is running and I want to jump in this infrastructure, how to solve it in practice. There are a lot of different, this is how we solve it in Germany. There is municipal waste fees of organic residual paper and the lightweight packaging. And beside this, and bringing it yourself systems, glass and glass. This is an example in Spain. They have only collection systems in the streets. And you can see here on the left, mono collections, and on the right is collection of light packaging in Germany. You can see you need, therefore, facilities and big plants to sort these packaging. This is a very simple lightweight packaging, but we started also in Europe with sorting of lightweight packaging in recycling plants like these, or in sorting plants like these, only with a magnetic separator, a sorting cabin, and to sort all these, and the residual waste were dumped. This is a picture. I have done it in Beijing. It is a very simple sorting facility, but the very complicated sorting facilities, I don't want to explain the whole flowchart, only give an impression. This is one of the latest built in last year. It was built in the Netherlands and is one of the highest standards in Europe, with a lot of technical equipment to sort it. And it's about 200,000 tons per year can be sorted in these equipment. And these are some baled products after sorting. And here I show you some examples what you can do after sorting with all of these products. PE, or also mixed plastic can be used, or can be used in chemical recycling or energy recycling in cement kilns, for examples. And controlling is, of course, very important, and you need strict controls, registration, check that everybody has registered, penalties for free riders, proof of the mass flows, proof that the requirements are fulfilled, and documents and analysis, no corruption. And of course, all these terms, all these topics has to be defined in a regulation, in a very good national regulation. Thank you. Hello?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Agnes, for taking us through your insightful presentation and sharing your expertise with you. And we do have a couple of questions, in fact, too many of them. I would ask a few questions from you based on the sorting. Yes. So the first question is that the packaging law, it is particularly relevant to Germany, and it says that the packaging law introduces a concept of eco-fee modulation, as per which the producer's licensing fee to the waste management systems is based on the recyclability of the material. In spite of this new packaging, which is mostly virgin plastic, though what incentives can be used and what measures can the companies be incentivized with to use recycled material for their packaging? Are there any incentives which the companies can be offered so that they can offer more of recycled material for their packaging?
Yes. Germany may be not the best example, because in Germany we have 10 system operators in competition, and the price and the cost is a little bit secret. They should differentiate between good recyclable and not good recyclable, and they have to document and report about this, but it is not so clear than in other countries. I show you here, I don't know whether you see again, here in France or in also in Italy, they have modulated fees that everybody who brings packaging on the market which is not recyclable, they pay about double of it. And this is very important to give incentives for better recyclability of the packaging. And it is really a different if you pay 300 euro per ton or 600 euro per ton like in Netherlands. And therefore, if you want to dive deeper in this, please use examples from France, Netherlands, or Italy. They are published on the websites of the system operators in these countries, and there is a very good explanation of eco-fee modulation. Is it clear?
Yes, Agnes, thank you very much. So the next question is, in German scenario, does the government handle the packaging waste, or who has to handle it after the producer pays the fee?
No, it is not the government. The government is only controlling. The system operator is collecting the fee, and they tender all the services of collecting, sorting, recycling, and also for communication. And the government is only the controller. In Germany, we have, besides the government, also another organization. We called it a central registry, which is controlling here, but in the most of the European countries, it's like this, that that the system operator is tendering all the services. In some countries, the collection is done by the municipalities, like in France and in Belgium, as example. And in France and Belgium, they are paid by the system operator. Yeah. And in Belgium, the name is FOS Plus. In France is CTO. They are only one system operator for household packaging, and they are paid by them. And also in Germany, they are paid by the system operators. This is the principle everywhere.
All right, thanks, Agnes, for the answer. And another question is that in what way and through what channels is there communication flow between the consumer and the PRO?
Sorry. This is also different in the countries, but in most countries, the communication is in the hand of the municipalities, but also the PROs or the system operators are involved, maybe by TV information, by information in newspapers, or by direct speaking and educating in schools and so on, and they give materials for the teacher, for the children, for other organizations, and they are working with NGOs. It is a very, 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 very big challenge and a very big thing that everybody is informed about the collection system and what he has to do, how to separate and not to litter this in the environment. Yes, and it is the issue and it is a task of the PRO, of the system operator, to pay for these communication services.
Thank you. Thanks, Agnes. The next question is, where should a company who is selling, a brand owner who is selling material in European countries, where should they collect and recycle the plastic waste?
The brand owner, maybe who bring products to the German market, they have to pay to the system operator per ton of the packaging material. Maybe they bring food on the market in Germany, which is packed in 100 tons of plastic packaging total per year. They have to pay for 100 tons and they have to register. I can send you a link if it is interesting, that everybody, that you can find every company who and brand owner who and importer who brings good to the German market, they have to register, and there are registered more than 170,000 companies. They are published. Also, the companies coming from India. You can find every company there, and they have to register, and then the register can see that they paid to the system operator for the later recycling and for the service of collection and sorting and recycling. They don't do it by themselves, this service, they pay for this service, and this is a collective service of the system operator, and they have to, they share the cost with all the brand owners, fillers, and importers.
Thanks, Agnes. So we'll take just two more questions since we are almost on time. We're just running out of time. So the next question is, how are the payment rates decided about who will pay how much?
The decision who is paying how much. I showed you the table with the EPR fees per country, and you see very big differences between the fee maybe per ton of plastic waste, of package, of paper, of other packaging. In most of the countries, it is set down by a national framework. And they say, for example, in Netherlands, you have to pay 300 euro per ton of material, or 600. It is in a decree or in a national regulation or appendix of the law, and these prices, they are changed every year, and the government public this every year, or the system operator is publishing this every year. It is different. In Germany, it's a little bit different because we have 10 system operators in competition to each other, and they are making the contracts and they are discussing. Therefore, we don't know exactly the price. it is what they negotiate between each other. Yes, but in the most countries, if you will find these fees, you will find it on the website of the system operators per year. Maybe, for example, CTO, they publish it, or in Netherlands, Afvalfonds, in Spain, Eco-Embers, or in Belgium, First Plus. Yeah, and this is calculated that with these costs, you can, with this EPR fee, you can cover all the costs of the system. And in a non-profit, you should not earn more and not collect more than you need. Therefore, sometimes during the year, they change the fees a little bit. Is it clear?
Yes, thanks. Thank you very much, Agnes, for that detailed explanation. So this is the last question for the day. I know we have several questions which are still coming, but we'll be accommodate this one question. So the question goes, how feasible is a mandatory EPR system in a developing economy as compared to a developed country?
They are starting now with discussion. I know for example, in Chile, they have a good, and I think in practice it will work. It is not really a developing country, but we have some problems in developing countries. But in Chile, they will start. They have one system operator for industrial. They have one system operator, AB Chile, it's called. And I'm very, very hopeful that it will work very, very well. But in other countries, there are a lot of problems. There are organizations. There are often starting with voluntary organization, but there are really very often trouble with organization, with corruption, with controlling, and with clear and practical, what you can do in practice to fulfill all these tasks. And it is really a challenge to do it. And in developed countries, it is a bigger challenge because such complicated and complex system is often not well to organize, and therefore they need the help. But the most of, or a lot of packaging that is brought on the market by multinational, international companies like Nestle, like Unilever, like Pepsi or Coca-Cola, and they know very well about the system and how the system can work. And therefore is our recommendation, please work with these companies, make concepts which are realizable on the national level, and which are fitting, can be done in this country, because they are really, every country is different with informal sectors. I didn't speak about yet, but you have to involve the informal sector. You should find out how they can involve, not to lose their work, not to lose their income, and so on. These are big challenge, special for these countries. Yes. Hello? Is it clear like this? I cannot hear you. Hello? Hello? I could not hear you. Is it clear now? Okay, then I don't know if there is any other question. Otherwise, thank you very
So
much.
sorry, there was a connectivity issue. I am extremely sorry for that. Thank you,
No.
Agnes. Thanks for that wonderful insight and an insightful presentation. I would like to thank both the speakers, both Ms. Vivian Chen and Ms. Agnes Bünemann, for sharing their presentations and thoughts with us. So we'll be sharing these presentations and possibly the recording of the webinar with all the participants. And we'll be continuing with this webinar series on various different aspects of EPR and other aspects of plastic pollution. Thank you very much for joining us today, and stay safe, stay healthy. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Yes. Bye-bye. Thank you for your interest and stay healthy.